So it's starting now.
Okay.
Give a few seconds. Yeah, it's on.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're so delighted that you're able to join us, take time out of your busy schedule to join us for this seminar today on body positivity and body image. This is a topic that we as a group felt it was really relevant and really important for all of us. And I'm just going to share some of it came out of a discussion we had out of my own personal journey as I was struggling with some health issues. And, I, at my age, was starting to have really some doubts about my own body image and how I started viewing myself and how I thought people were viewing me because of my excessive weight gain. And it all started, I had an interesting conversation with my daughter, Poonam, and she actually said, Mommy, this has been ongoing, but things have changed. Body image has changed, how we see ourselves. And she goes, it's all about body positivity. And I said, oh, well, tell me more about body positivity. So as she started talking more, and she said something that really clicked. She said, because we had a very wonderful conversation, and she said, Mommy, she goes, I wish OSA would take stuff like this up and have more discussions about this. This is what we want to hear more about, because these are things that are really relevant to us and causes that we fight for. And so I brought it to the group, and they overwhelmingly said, let's do this. So again, it's an opportunity for I, as the parent, to stop doing the teaching and start learning what my children have to teach me. So having said that, I'm going to talk a little bit, just mention a little bit about what is body image and what is body positivity. What is body image? Body image is what you think and how you feel when you look in the mirror or when you see a picture of yourself in your mind. This could include how you feel about your appearance, what you think about your body itself, such as your height, your weight, and really is about how comfortable are you feeling in your own skin. And of course, this has a direct correlation to how you behave as a result of these thoughts and feelings. Poor body image has also been known to as body dissatisfaction. It has been linked to a range of physical and mental health problems, including anorexia, bulimia, depression, and body image disturbance, and body dysmorphic disorder. Those who are partakers encourage to view self-acceptance and self-love as traits for this, dignified to the person. As far as body positivity goes, body positivity is really, it's a social movement that has focused on the acceptance of all body types, regardless of size, shape, skin tone, gender, physical abilities. This movement challenges the present day beauty standards that actually has an undesirable social construct. The proponents of body positivity focus on the appreciation of the functionality and health of the human body instead of the physiological appearance. Body positivity movement has focused largely on women, recognizing the societal beauty standards are more prevalent to women than they are to men. However, men also face similar societal pressures as women. They're made often to fit, that they have to fit into a mold of a certain prototype of what the ideal masculine man is. Now, this is just a quick introduction, but we, as the seminar panelists, will talk more in depth about these topics. And as we get started, I would like to introduce our moderator for this seminar, the wonderful, talented Shibani Patnaik, who is not new to this group or to OSA. She is going to moderate, and she will take over from now as she introduces our panelist. And she will also talk about the format. And again, I want to say thank you all for being here. I'm Tapti Panda from Michigan, and I am so delighted to be here as part of this panel. Shibani, it's all yours now.
Thank you so much, Smriti Appa. Namaskar. Thank you all for joining today. I am honored and delighted to introduce the speakers today. We have an accomplished panel of speakers who will share their insights on body positivity, and we look forward to the critical and imperative dialogues with the group afterwards. Before we begin, I'd like to cover some guidelines for today's seminar. All audience members will be muted during the session. When we open the seminar up for discussion and question and answer session, we encourage you to use the raise hand functionality, which is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, so that we can unmute you for you to share your story or ask your question. Feel free to type your questions and comments in the chat functionality during the discussion session or during the presentation, and we will keep track of all of those comments and raise them at the appropriate time. And lastly, there will be a Q&A and comment and discussion happening, but it will happen after all of the panelists have presented. It will be at the end of the 3 speakers presenting. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker this afternoon will share some thoughts and perspectives on body positivity, and she is Ananya Bakshi. Ananya is currently a sophomore studying economics and international business at the University of Georgia. She is a national OSA youth coordinator, an OSA Georgia youth leader, and currently captain of the competitive dance team on campus called UGA Asuda. She is very passionate about dance, books, and staying connected with her roots and cultural heritage. In her free time, Ananya loves to choreograph different pieces, cook, bake, and spend time with her family. Ananya, we're very excited to hear from you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shibani. Thank you all for being here. Very excited to speak on this topic. It's something that has been very close to me and has been a very big learning curve for me as I grew up. So yeah, I'll be talking more from a teenager's perspective and just learning to grow as I learn more about my body. So to start off, what is body positivity? Body positivity is defined as a social movement focused on the acceptance of all bodies, regardless of size, shape, skin tone, gender, and physical abilities, while challenging present-day beauty standards as an undesirable social construct. So I have personally faced a lot of room to learn when it comes to size, shape, obviously skin tone, and gender. So this has been a big thing for me learning as I grew up. There are many phases in life that body positivity really shines through at, and one of that is the middle school, high school, college time period. During this time, teenagers go through a significant phase in life where their bodies are changing and they have to quickly adapt and learn how to live in almost new skin. In middle school, you are changing, you're starting that change where you see others who are changing at a different pace than you, who are showing their bodily changes differently than you are at different degrees. And it's very daunting to experience that, especially when you have never faced something like this in your memory before this moment. And middle school was a big time for me and my peers as we learned. It was kind of an unspoken thing where we wouldn't really talk about what was changing. We'd all be very insecure about how we came off to others, what we looked like, why we looked like that. And everything was just so new to us growing up. In middle school, that 6th grade to 8th grade time was just us learning about that, oh my God, we're changing. This happens. And it was a big shock factor for us. And that brought us to high school, where all of a sudden we're in this new skin. We are learning to adapt to this new skin. And in the middle of all of that, we have so many other life changes where we're growing up, we're learning to become more independent. And for me personally, I know my body image and all of the issues or anything positive or negative that I had kind of got put into a box and stored away, where it would still be bothering me all the time, but I never really faced it. And a lot of my peers felt the same way, where we knew that we had body image issues, where we weren't completely happy with ourselves, but we didn't know how to face that, how to deal with it. And so it just got locked away in a box, kept annoying us while we went through high school, but we never really did anything about it. And that's when becoming self-aware was a big learning point for me. When I understood, oh, this is why I am uncomfortable in my skin. This is what I can do to feel more comfortable, and just learning more about my body, self, and my personality through there was a big learning point for me. And that brings me to college. College, for us personally, has been the time when we get introduced to such a diverse population of students, where it's not just one group. Everyone was born and raised in the same place. So there are a lot of similarities that they share. College is where you get to learn about so many different people from so many different backgrounds, where their view on body positivity is different from their view was different from mine. I got to learn so much about different types of people, and that really taught me how to feel comfortable in my skin, because learning that I also got introduced to so many new people who were very similar to me. And I got introduced to people who are very different from me. And that just taught me that I'm not in it alone. Everyone is dealing with the same things. And that brings me to a reference to a show called Modern Family. I'm not sure if anyone has seen it, but in the show, there is a specific event where one of the kids is in high school, and he was nervous about going to a school trip because there was a rumor that they would go swimming. And he was just so uncomfortable in his body. He was so self-conscious that he was planning on skipping the trip altogether. And in a piece of advice that his mom gave him that really stuck with me was that regard everything you feel about yourself, just remember that every single other person in that room won't notice any of those things, because they're too focused on thinking about that, about themselves as well. And that just shows that everyone is in the same boat. Being self-conscious, being uncomfortable in your skin, it's all boxed in within you. And learning how to break through that is a process that I have been going through. And I'm still not perfect. And I'm in college. I'm still learning how to feel comfortable being myself, but becoming self-aware about that, understanding that I am who I am. That is okay. I can always improve, but being who I am right now, I'm happy with it. That just shows that body positivity, that's what it means. And that brings me to social media. A reason why we have so many body issues, especially in our generation, is because of social media. And that's when you, in a click of your laptop, you get to see everything in the world. But it's all very streamlined when it comes to what the ideal person looks like, when it comes to what body types should be. I took the time today to go through my own Instagram feed and just see what ads popped up for me. And here is what popped up for me. The first is this body type that I definitely do not share. I am not the same, but every other ad has been the same. A skinnier, tall, there are just some aspects that declare the ideal body type that I see in every ad, but it's not holistic at all in the way that the population is. So a big thing to realize is that everything that you see on social media, everything that you see being posted, it's not real life. This is all very much posed, very much placed in a way that makes their products more appealing, makes this lifestyle more appealing, but it's not real life. And real life is so much more rewarding than anything that you would see on an Instagram ad. And that brings me to another part of social media is how do I frame myself on social media? What should I post? A very specific memory about this is about 3 weeks ago, my team and I were in Chicago for a dance championship. And when in Chicago, you obviously have to visit the famous landmarks. And one of those was the Bean. We were all enjoying each other's company until it came to picture time. And when it came to picture time, all the solo pictures were being taken. And I noticed a very specific trend happening that even I was part of. I would take a picture, my friend would take that picture for me. I would ask, can I go see that? The second my eyes would land on the phone, I would immediately start pointing out flaws in myself. Oh, if I stood like this, I would look better. Oh, if I did this, maybe this wouldn't show. And I just had a list immediately of what all looked wrong in that picture, what looked wrong in me. And then I would ask to take that picture again and try to hide those flaws. And then I ended up not posting anything from that trip just because I didn't feel comfortable with the way I was being displayed. And that just showed I'm still learning about body positivity, about being happy in my own skin. And that was an example of when I didn't do that, when I wasn't completely comfortable. And I realized that that's how a lot of my friends feel. Everyone else did the same thing, even though they had ideal body types, the body type that I would love to have, they were still feeling the same way. And that just shows that body positivity, body image issues come in all shapes and forms. And having that be a roadblock for your life and you living the way you want to, it's a big roadblock and it doesn't have to be. So now I'm going to start learning to post more about whatever I enjoyed. That was a big weekend for me, and I didn't post just because I didn't like the way I looked in the pictures I took. But just learning to be happy with who I am, being comfortable, and just being able to share these parts of my life regardless of what I think I look like in front of others. It's a big part of growing. And a big part of my growth has been having these conversations at home. I'm lucky enough to have a family that has open dialogue in our household, and getting compliments from them has been a big part of my growth, just because we all value our family's opinions over anyone else. I know just because I grew up with them, I value their opinions over anything else. And if they tell me I look good, I feel good. So having these conversations at home, raising children to be happy with how they look, teaching them that regardless of what they wear, whatever they want to do, that's okay. And having that body positivity is a big thing. But everything I said wraps up to, I understand body positivity is an ideal aspect, look in life that maybe not all of us can have. It's almost unrealistic because it emphasizes embracing all features, which in this image you see in body positivity, it says, I love my legs, cellulite and all, they are beautiful. I understand this entire time I've been talking about how I also do not really feel comfortable at times. I notice my flaws. All of my peers, we all notice our flaws first. But that brings me to body neutrality, which is where I personally feel like I am in this field right now, which is body neutrality is acknowledging what your body provides for you and being thankful for that. So I feel thankful for what I have. I understand that there are rooms for growth, but I am happy with where I am right now. I am comfortable. I am excited to grow as a person and grow in my outlook on myself and my life. but where I am right now is a blessing. And just understanding that and emphasizing that to whoever you meet, that's a big, big step in the body positivity movement and becoming more open to body neutrality. Thank you all so much. And I will pass it on to Shibani again.
Thank you, Ananya, so much for sharing, a very raw, honest perspective on your journey and what you're going through and your experiences. So I'm sure I certainly learned a lot, and internally you've given me a lot to think of, as well as, from a family perspective and from a community and society perspective. So thank you so much, Ananya, for sharing with us. I would like to introduce now our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Tapti Panda. Dr. Panda is a fellow of the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. She specializes in OB-GYN and minimal invasive surgery in New York. Dr. Panda has been a senior partner at Crystal Run Healthcare LLP since 2008. She is affiliated with multiple hospitals in the area, including Westchester Medical and St. Anthony Hospital. Born in Bhubaneswar, Odisha, Dr. Panda completed medical school at Madras Medical College, Annamalai University, and completed her residency at Albert Einstein Hospital in New York. Dr. Panda is passionate about women's health, social service, breast cancer, Alzheimer's, deaf and differently abled services, and is a member of multiple societies that support these initiatives. Recently, she supported pandemic relief work in Odisha, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. She currently lives in New York with her husband, Dr. Rajan Subia, who is a pulmonary critical care specialist, and her 2 children. I'd like to turn it over to Tapti.
Namaskar. Thank you, Shibani, and hello, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be here with you all. I'm really honored to be part of this talk, which is so important. Women's Empowerment Team, thank you, Mrs. Smriti Panda, and my fellow speakers, you guys rock. And just moving on to my first slide, I'd like to start with the picture, next one, Nagesh. Yeah, so I'd like to start off here. This first slide, we're seeing this young woman in this picture. What's the first thing that strikes us? Is she a Nobel Prize winner, a CEO of a large corporate, or is she an inventor, nurse, a chef, a homemaker? No, I don't think all this comes to our mind, but our biased mind takes in her physical appearance and labels her a little overweight, and we start judging right away. And we think that maybe she has some problem. Maybe she'll look better if she loses a little weight. Next slide, please. So as women, we need to understand that our body is programmed to go through a natural process. And like Ananya was actually pointing out, the nice series of her growth and her experience, the same way, we are born with cells and organs, and the body undergoes change as we all grow, and we go from going through puberty as young girls, have acne and keep growing, and we get taller, and then comes the secondary sexual characters, and then starts the middle-age process, more weight gain, then our skin changes, there's pigmentation, there's hair loss, there's graying. All these are natural processes that we can't escape. Next slide, please. So this spiral point model here highlights the body changes as we all advance in age, and we see transition points of change. anticipating, accepting these changes and adapting and learning to adjust to these changes, accommodating our feelings for these changes. And lastly, focusing on positives is probably something that we can all learn early in life that'll help us. Physiologic changes make us have body hair. In that previous slide, we saw the real reason women today are using methods to remove body hair. And this was because of the expansion of profit-making strategies of King C. Gillette, who was the inventor of safety razor, which was actually initially made for men. But for their gain, they started launching ads that stigmatized body hair in women, establishing this culture of body hair removal in women, which is a standard today. Next slide, please. When we are all born differently, how can then we all be subjected to one standard or one particular way of looking? So how, slim, tall, fair, sharp nose, big eyes, even skin tone, bone structure, and so much more. Over time, people have realized, and we have realized, that the effects of over-obsession about physical appearance and beauty, all this gives rise to bullying, ostracizing, teasing, vilification of individuals, and the after effects of all this on an individual's self-esteem, confidence, and the way they feel about themselves change. This is what gave rise to the body positivity movement, which challenges the unrealistic standards of beauty and perfection, shifting from ideal to a whole body realistic approach where we accept and we love the body as it is. We love each body. Every body is beautiful. That's the concept. Body image, as Ananya pointed out, and as Ms. Smriti Panda pointed also earlier as introducing the topic, that's the way we feel about our body and our physical appearance, which actually starts way early in childhood. In the last couple of years, though, there has been a slight shift from body positivity, and it's being slowly replaced by body neutrality, where we pay attention more to the functioning of our body. Like, my body helps me dance or sing or perform a certain skill, and that's what becomes the highlight today. Next slide, please. We know as early as age 3 to 4, body image perceptions are installed in our mind. So the subconscious begins to form an opinion about looks, and we start to develop certain feelings about our appearance. Children actually are most challenged, especially the years of puberty, menarche, the development of secondary sexual characters, the acne, the hormonal changes. Their body undergoes so much change and makes them so vulnerable to stress. And there's so much pressure from peers, school, family, social media. There's societal, cultural pressure, especially in kids that are born with challenges or have certain disabilities or learning disabilities. The body image becomes a source of distress, depression, and ill health. More than 20 to 40% women are actually unhappy about the way they look. Teens come into our offices sometimes very anxious, crying and tearful about the way they look, about their breasts appear or their genitals are, and they seek sometimes, drastic measures to change themselves, to reduce sizes or augment the size, or they may go on certain medications in the hope that it'll boost their self-confidence and self-esteem. Next slide, please. We see young adults maturing from their teenage years and then going into adulthood, and we know, we've been there, all of us feel the pressure from work, the need to look good every day, and that comes from our peers and pressure from the family and the pressure of certain lifetime events like marriage. Oh my God, we have to look a certain way. And then there's pregnancy, you know, and there's other medications we might be using for certain medical conditions that we start developing. And all of this, this is a huge challenge for our body. And our body image then starts to undergo this change, and there's so much distortion. Pregnant women feel the need to lose weight so much so that they forget to enjoy their fruits of labor. They forget that the body takes time to heal and to return to some normal state, and that sometimes there could be redundancy of that weight gain that happened during pregnancy. And the pressure to look good has become ever increasingly painful. Even I remember after my daughter was born, looking at myself 2 days after I delivered, and the picture I saw of myself in the mirror was so different from what I had thought I would look after delivery. Like I thought I would lose all the weight and I would be back to somewhat normal, but no, it wasn't that. It was some postpartum woman standing in front of me. And I immediately started thinking of, strategies of, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Like, when do I start working out, or what should I do to lose weight? The triad of social media, the society, and the internalization that we do leads to behavioral changes. We see women ending up with eating disorders, resorting to extremely dangerous measures to lose weight, like anorexia, bulimia, and women seek quick fix procedures sometimes that can become so damaging, and they could be very life-threatening at times with complications that can happen. All this is because we've always been told that being a certain body size is bad, having wrinkles is bad, that veins that are seen on legs are ugly. As a physician, I see women born into Black and Hispanic families actually tend to have a little bit better body image than other ethnicity like Caucasians and even Asians. Special groups like LGBT and individuals born to immigrant families face criticism and teasing and bullying very early in life, and they have such negative body image perceptions. Next slide, please. Then as the woman progresses now in life, there seems to be a little bit of improvement in body confidence. However, there still remains a poor body image perception in menopausal age. And that impacts the quality of life for many women. Many a times women undergo situational changes like retirement or loss of a partner or divorce, emptiness, or they may have major health-related problems, and sometimes women develop cancer, and the related treatment that goes into cancer treatment or medical problems changes their body, besides the fact that menopause has unfair amount of change that we all go through. All this increases their emotional burden, and they feel that they have somehow become invisible to everybody. And that reduces the level of confidence in women. Next slide, please. So what then is terribly wrong in today's world? We all know that today the biggest blow to our confidence comes from social media. Every time we turn around, we see all these perfect faces, perfect bodies, the products that are being used, are being advertised, and that we are constantly trying to hide the fat and the grays or the wrinkles in the hope that we'll look good. Next slide, please. we have built a society that feels the need to categorize and label everything from food to music to bodies. And as a result, we see today there is such an array of mental and health issues like anxiety, eating disorders, restrictive eating, body dysmorphia, where we know we look a certain way, but then we have this image of ourselves. So that's called body dysmorphia. Not to mention the epidemic of substance abuse, alcohol, resulting in so many lives that are being lost. Next slide, please. Drastic weight changes result in a lot of body changes. The body metabolism changes, hormonal glands change, major reproductive disorders, including menstrual disorders, infertility, bone problems like osteoporosis can result in fractures. And on the other hand, we also see women who are actually overweight, and they also have issues, as well as, this misunderstanding from body image or body positivity that leads to a very leads to a behavior where they tend to continue to gain weight just because they are frustrated or angry, and that creates an environment which is unhealthy and increases their risk for diabetes or heart problems or poor reproductive function, and pregnancy challenges can happen in these women as well, including diabetes or difficult deliveries. Sometimes women also have a higher risk of cancers of breast and colon because of being in that higher BMI group. Next slide, please. So now this calls for a balance between body positivity and body neutrality. We're incorporating the principles from both sides will help individuals in the long run. We must learn to focus not just on our body or self-esteem or love for the body, but also recognize that it is a very vital vessel, a vessel that functions, and to preserve this function is to preserve health. And that is what we need to start to focus on. Next slide, please. It's time to recognize and normalize representation, diversity, recognize that bodies are in different size and colors, shape, and gender, and the existence of the differently abled as well. Next slide, please. A big thanks to the Love All Body and the body positivity movement, we are actually seeing some changes today. We do see stores like Forever 21 and Aerie and many others bring in plus size clothes to their shelf. We are seeing colored models and differently abled models in ads. We are seeing rules and regulations being set for ads. We are seeing truth come out about unfairness in work areas. If any one of you has seen the White Hot on Netflix, which covers the story about Abercrombie and Fish and how biased their recruitment was based on just looks, we are recognizing the effect of selfie taking and its emotional consequences, especially in younger generation. There was this study that was made on selfie taking without makeup. And it showed that women, when they took selfie without makeup, they had so much anxiety that developed right away. This just goes to show how makeup dependent our mind is. As parents and community and as society, we need to take some responsibility in instilling confidence and self-esteem in our children right from the start. There is a need to train teachers, school nurses, doctors to appropriately address the aspect of physical parameters in children. Maybe schools should start including into their curriculum social media kits to educate kids. And parents in school need to advise and guide children how to respond to social media and help them understand the challenges that they will face as they will be growing up. Using positive language instills confidence in younger minds. Kids need to know that these models, like Ananya showed those Instagram pictures, they are really less than only 3% of what normal women in the world look like. And that these pictures are not actually may not be real. They may be touched, photoshopped. So as individuals, challenging these restrictive ideas like being fat is unhealthy or being thin is healthy is something that we all need to start doing. Donating clothes that don't fit anymore, maybe we should be doing that, maybe we can get rid of our weighing scale or just weigh ourselves once a week instead of obsessing with weighing every day. So we could also start with surrounding ourselves with more positive friends or like have a support squad that does not just focus on body, but appreciate each other for who we are and show gratitude and keep our mind busy and by doing other things rather than just appeasing the way we look. Compliment yourself every day. Involve yourself in community activities like walk, run, planting, anything that involves a physical activity actually is a positive step toward better health, and that influences a better body image. Next slide, too. So to conclude, this body positivity talk will never be complete without understanding a little bit about weight and losing weight. We are all familiar with body mass index or BMI and how it is calculated. And even though we know statistically 4 in 10 women in the US are by definition obese by BMI, BMI does not sometimes hold good. Like if someone was shorter and muscular, will have a higher BMI at some time. So really just going by BMI and weight doesn't equate to health at times. So we also need to understand that there are contributors to weight: our age, our diet, lifestyle, our medication list, success of pregnancies or genetic disorders, metabolic conditions. All of this goes into contributing to weight and weight gain. Understanding that there is a health risk, like when some studies show that waist size of more than 35 inches or apple-shaped women really have a higher risk for cardiac problems. So here we are trying to understand the health implications of our body size, which is more important than just the looks. So that we can bring in some small changes that will help us feel healthier and more confident. Next slide, please. So then that brings us to this very common question where, as a physician, again, I get asked, so why am I not losing weight? What can I do to keep my weight off? Or, oh, Dr. Panda, last year I lost 20 pounds and I really felt so good about it. And now I feel like the weight is creeping back. So just like I previously identified the contributors to weight gain, there's also an understanding of the way our body behaves is important. Sleep is very, very important. So if we can manage to sleep at least 8 to 10 hours or even 8 to 9 hours, that in itself helps us maintain or lose weight. Lack of sleep, certain medications, use of hormones does cause weight gain. Aging causes weight gain. How does that happen? Because as we all advance in age, our muscle wasting starts, and muscle is where fat burning happens. So when we lose muscle, we start keeping or storing more fat. We also have a set point in the body. That means after I lose a certain amount of body weight or fat, my body is not going to lose any more because I need a certain amount of fat in my body to continue to function normally. And that's what we need to understand. Focusing a little bit on our physical activities and diet is important. So I tell patients that diet goes into 80% of weight loss, and exercise or physical activity is actually only 20%. So focusing on my plate is actually what I should be doing more. So paying attention to these small changes will actually help in the long run. Maybe we can also take on certain special diets like intermittent fasting, but of course, intermittent fasting is not for everybody. And we need to consult our physicians or our dietitian before we take on certain special diets like that. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, because body image issue has become such an epidemic and the consequences can be so detrimental and serious, if we see somebody having issues, please, let's help. If you know somebody is having a problem, help. There are crisis centers and helplines available. One of them is the federal program, which is called National Eating Disorders Association, which is accessible through phone and chat lines. There's also a prominent office of women's health, which has supported many women who have eating disorders and mental illness that may come from these eating disorders. Next slide. So I would like to conclude my talk by, on actually recognizing my mom here. These are pictures of her from when she was young to most recent years. My mom has been probably the most positive person and my best influencer I have ever seen in life. Thank you for the opportunity. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Tapti. What an enlightening talk and presentation. We really can see your passion for women's health in all stages of life come through, not only from a medical perspective, but also from a mental, from a family and a societal perspective. So thank you so much for sharing with us. So with that, we will move on to our last speaker. And again, there will be an opportunity for Q&A and discussion after we are done. But our last speaker is Nagesh Rajanala. Mr. Rajanala lives in New Jersey with his partner, Sushmita, and his 3 children. He works in the technology industry and is currently pursuing a degree in management. He has been a past volunteer along with his daughter at Ayati, a nonprofit that works in the area of women's menstrual health. He has written numerous articles on social attitudes towards menstruation and its impact on gender equality. Nagesh serves the OSA community as president of the OSA New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania chapter, leading transformational initiatives for the chapter. Nagesh, I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Shibani. It's wonderful to be here, and thanks to the Women's Empowerment Forum to inviting me to participate and share some thoughts around body positivity. The topic that I will be talking about is body positivity when it comes to boys or men. Going in, it was interesting because all the members, all the speakers, we got into research in terms of what this looks like. And the best information was there from a research perspective. And that indicates that this is not just about women, or this is not just about girls who in terms of the perceptions around body image and what impact it has. The research indicates that with men, it's very similar. There's no significant difference between how men look at body image and the related perceptions and how it impacts physical and mental health. That's the research. So it was good to see that we don't sort of stereotype this as a gender issue or as a woman's issue. It's actually very much an everybody's issue. What I'll do in the next slide is show a small video. It's about 3 minutes long. And I'll invite all of you to share one quick thought around this video. There are a couple of documentaries that were done on how we raise boys in our society and how we raise girls in our society. So these are full movies that are about an hour and a half long. What I'm showing you is a 3-minute teaser or a trailer, right? And I invite you, as you watch it or after you watch this, that if you would like to see the whole movie sometime in the future, we'll dedicate another hour afternoon, one of the Saturdays and Sundays in the future to watch the whole movie. Very educative, very impactful. So what I'll request is while you're watching or after you watch, do type into the chat window if you would be interested in watching the whole movie sometime in the future, and we will get to it, right? So I'll go ahead and start the movie here. Let me just make sure I have the sound turned on.
Stop crying.
Stop with the tears.
Don't cry. Pick yourself up.
Stop with the emotion.
Don't be a pussy.
Don't let nobody disrespect you.
Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Always keep your mouth. Nobody likes a tattletale.
Bros come before hoes.
Don't let your woman run your life.
You a bitch.
What a fag.
Get laid. Do something.
Be a man.
Be a man.
Grow some balls.
The 3 most destructive words that every man receives when he's a boy is when he's told to be a man.
We've constructed an idea of masculinity in the United States that doesn't give young boys a way to feel secure in their masculinity, so we make them go prove it all the time.
Within their peer group culture, each of them is posturing based on how the other boys are posturing, and what they end up missing is what they each really want, which is just that closeness.
In good times, guys are like really close to each other, but when things get a little bit worse, you're on your own.
From middle school, I had 4 really close friends. Once I kind of went into high school, I struggle finding people I can talk to because I feel like I'm not supposed to get help.
Our kids get up every morning. They have to prepare their mask for how they're gonna walk to school. A lot of our students don't know how to take the mask off. What is it you don't let people see? Almost 90% of you have pain and anger on the back of that paper.
If you never cry, then you have all these feelings stuffed up inside of you, and then you can't get them out.
They really buy into a culture that doesn't value what we've feminized. If we're in a culture that doesn't value caring, doesn't value relationships, doesn't value empathy, you are going to have boys and girls, men and women go crazy.
I had anger issues in high school. I felt like an outcast.
I've been suspended at least once every year I was here.
We would just look for trouble and just like try to fight.
Boys are more likely to act out. They're more likely to become aggressive. Most people miss that as depression, or see it as a conduct disorder, or just a bad kid.
I felt like just giving up on life. You know, I actually had suicide thoughts in my head at 6th grade.
I felt alone for a long time, and I actually thought about killing myself.
Whether it's homicidal violence or suicidal violence, people resort to such desperate behavior only when they are feeling shamed and humiliated, or feel they would be if they didn't prove that they were real men.
If you're told from day one, don't let nobody disrespect you, and this is the way you handle it as a man, respect is linked to violence.
If I can man up, why step down from that? You feel me?
It's like instinct.
So man up! Man up! Man up! Man up! Pull some fucking balls! Act like a man! Be a man.
Be a man.
For my kids, I was gonna end this hyper-masculine narrative here.
So very powerful as I first saw it. And as I mentioned, there are 2 movies here. One is around the exploration of masculinity in boys and men, and the other one is around exploring the body image with girls and women. As I said, do indicate your interest, and we'll see if this is something that we can stream in one of our future meetings. We can set a couple of afternoons around those, something which might benefit all of us. So moving on in terms of our slide, essentially the impact of body image. As I said, we won't go through what is the body image and what the impacts are, but essentially for men, this shows up in three different ways. One is around the psychological dimension, where we look at weight distortions and emotional balance in terms of how we feel about our bodies and the weight. There is a behavioral dimension to this in terms of how we respond by saying we go on to dieting, fasting, substance use, and of course, surgery and ways to alter how we look. And then there's a cognitive aspect as well, which is how our mind works and how we use the information that we receive and how we perform with all of that information. And all of that is part of this impact. We'll quickly go through some of the details of each one of these three dimensions. Body dissatisfaction among men, it's associated with lower confidence, depression, greater anxiety, social anxiety, the obsession with looking good and having strong muscles, loneliness, the investment that we make into how we look in terms of clothing, apparel, and other things, and so on, right? So all of this is related to how the psychological dimension around the way men view their bodies manifests in real life. There was what we call a longitudinal study for adolescents, right? This is so longitudinal studies are when they follow the same group of people across a long period of time. So this one is between 1994 and 2018. This was done in North Carolina for about 2,000 odd boys on an average 16 years of age, right? The middle and the second and the third paragraphs here is what classifies one particular finding. And essentially what they said was, there are boys who looked at themselves, they're actually average weight, but they look at themselves as either underweight or overweight, right? So they have a distorted view of themselves, that they're actually average weight, but they think they're underweight or they're overweight. So those boys who identified themselves as underweight or overweight, they reported significantly higher levels of depressive symptoms as compared to the boys who accurately viewed their age as average. Right. So essentially, over a 13-year period, they found that once a child decides that they are underweight or overweight, that perception remains for a long period of time. That manifests in all of the behavioral elements that we talked about, right? And the interesting part is both these groups are average weight. It is just one group viewed themselves as different and therefore had a significantly different level of symptoms that they report. The behavioral dimension, this is associated with how we eat, the greater dietary supplement use. I think there is plenty of Facebook, Instagram, and social media that talks about highly muscular people and how they can get those muscles by dietary supplements and protein shakes and so on. There is an increased use of dieting and different kinds of food regimes, compulsive exercise, use of performance-enhancing drugs, and cosmetic surgery. So this is also something that has been established through research. The third dimension is around the cognitive dimension. And all of this, this was interesting for me to learn as well, that in our brains, there is a particular schema in terms of how our brain processes body image information. And what happens is, whenever we see those kind of images on TV or on social media, that sort of activates that portion of the brain where we start looking at the information and start thinking, oh, I'm not that, or how can I become like that, and so on. And that it leads to a lot of issues around esteem, around how we assess ourselves, how we look at ourselves, and then consequently how we perform in real life, and that becomes a barrier for our success. So all of this is something that is very real. And as you listen to me, you can see or feel that what I said has probably not new as compared to what Dr. Tapti or Ananya shared. And essentially, whether it's men or women, we all seem to have the same challenges when it comes to how we view ourselves and how we respond to the information that we see about ourselves and about others. As a father of three, I realized that the bottom line becomes how we speak to our children, how we help our children grow up with positive messages about themselves and positives around their good health. And we realize that as parents, we do use a fair amount of negative statements when we talk about body image, when we talk about health and so on. And we try to list here some of the practical statements that we may make when we're talking to our children, right? We tell boys, don't cry, you're a boy, you're not supposed to cry. Or when we talk to our girls and say, moti hai jiwo basic hani, and we say, don't eat junk food, or you're looking darker, so put some powder on your skin, or you're looking darker, wear some light colored clothes. And when we talk to other parents and we make these statements, how come your children are taller than mine? And those kind of statements keep happening all day long, as we see sometimes in front of our children, and we don't realize that all of these statements have an impact on how they view themselves and what they do. So what is needed here is for some amount of self-introspection to understand what kind of statements we make to our children or about our children, and see if there is a way to replace those statements with positive sounding statements, which is what I try to list on the right side, right? We often resort to parental commands. We say, I'm the parent, I'm going to tell you what to do or not. And we don't take the time to explain our thinking. And I think that's very important for us. And I'll give a simple example, right? When we first took our young children to Costco, there is a lot of samples that are available on Sunday morning. It's a nice hot spot where people can get some samples. And we were faced with the dilemma of how to explain to our children that we don't eat pork or beef. And we can't just use our parental position to say, we're Indians, we don't eat beef, right? That's not going to work with children who we are bringing up as American citizens in an American society. And therefore, we had to do the research to understand that the historical view of not eating beef or pork is not really the religious aspect of what we feel it is. There was a very practical reason that thousands of years ago, the cow was a central part of the family, where the cow would give milk, the cow would give fuel for burning the stuffs, and milk would be made into yogurt, into sweets, and so many other things. And what really helped at that time was passing on the message that if you take care of the cow like you take care of your mother, that mother or cow would feed your family for many, many days and months and years, right? So to pass on that message that you need to take care of the cow, which in turn will take care of your family, I believe that many thousands of years ago, people turned to religion saying cow is God and you don't kill God, you don't eat God, right? And that's what went through all these years of evolution for ourselves. And we believe that we can't eat cow because of religious reasons. But when we teach our children, they don't necessarily get it. So having to do that research and explain it to them, this is why we don't eat a cow, and then saying, you choose whether you want to. And that helped because the children were able to appreciate that, they were able to understand that. And what we realized was doing a little bit of research and explaining rather than giving commands makes a huge difference. And when we explain, we listen to ourselves as well. So we can ask and question ourselves saying, am I giving the right explanation of why I'm doing this? And that gives us the opportunity that we question ourselves in our statements as to why we say something. Right. One of the things we always do is a must and a should. Girls should dress conservatively, cover your skin. You should walk this way or walk that way. When you're in public, don't laugh out loud. Don't show your teeth. And there are so many things that we use with a must and a should. And those are things that have a negative impact on our children. And we need to understand why we say this. And if we are able to talk through our reasoning with the children and argue it out, we might have a chance at gaining what we are looking for without having a negative impact. But all of these things are important, right? Taking time out to have family playtime, going out to the park. Food is a big issue, right? We talk about don't eat this, don't eat that, it's all don'ts. How do we replace that with simply saying, how do we balance our plate? One of the things that Michelle Obama did as a big thing for this society was move away from the food pyramid to a food plate, in terms of saying, how do you have half your plate with fruits and vegetables, a quarter with proteins and a quarter with carbs? And how do we explain to our children from a very young age as they grow up to say, just balance your plate. We're not saying don't eat this, don't eat that, just balance your plate. That's essentially the messaging that we need to shift to. The other thing we all as parents do, I think we have, we give away an unconditionality, because, the way we've been brought up is probably that if we give a lot of compliments to our children, we might spoil them. So we are taught, or we have experienced ourselves, that you don't give too many compliments. You praise the child and you spoil the child. So what we end up doing is not give compliments to our children, or give what we call conditional compliments. If you do this, then you're good. If you do that, then you're good. And when we put a lot of ifs together and a lot of conditionality, we also start playing the same game that we have experienced. Instead, how do we replace those with unconditional statements? I love you is the most unconditional statement one can make to anybody. We simply say no ifs and buts and no conditions attached to that. I simply love you, or you look great, or you're beautiful, and so on. So how do we use more unconditional statements in our day-to-day life with our children, and not have any buts, ifs, musts, shoulds, and not connect our statements to anything? And all of that will, I believe, help the children gain a positive image about themselves, positive feelings about themselves. And then they'll still go, they still have to deal with everything at school and in the society that they go out to study and work in. But we can send them out as confident people who are comfortable with themselves. So I'll stop here. Hopefully these were all messages that resonated with you, and these are things that you'll be able to use in your daily life. Shibani, back to you.
Thank you so much, Nagesh. Specifically, thank you for opening up our eyes and really expanding on body positivity concepts that aren't really discussed in the forefront at all, and that too backed by so much research. So thank you so much. So now, it's been such an interesting seminar, and it's been very enriching and overwhelming in a good sense to hear varied perspectives and multiple dimensions from our panelists. I think it also really highlights the necessity of conversations, dialogues, information dissemination that should be taking place within our homes and within the communities. And that's actually a perfect segue to our next section, because we really would like to open it up to the audience for Q&A, for individuals to share their stories, to have these important discussions. So if you would like to share a story or perspective or have a comment or question, we would welcome that. And please just use the chat function or the raise hand function so we can manage it effectively. And after we're done with the Q&A, we will have closing, and we will tell you about some more exciting events coming up. But I would like to open it up now to the group for discussions. And while people are getting off of mute or actually raising their hand or putting it in chat, I do want to call to your attention an interesting chat dialogue that I noticed. And I think it was Tapti Mishra who mentioned, parents and relatives need to take a lot of responsibility. I have seen relatives in Indian households comment on children's looks. They think it's a joke or they are being helpful. It's most destructive for a child's self-image when they have a respected uncle or aunt joke about their looks in public. And aligned with this comment, Rajeshri had put in a comment, love one of the speakers to address the role of parents, friends, and family in developing body positivity. So maybe we could just start by the panelists answering or commenting on that. And then I would really encourage the group to get ready to share their stories and ask questions as well. Panelists?
I do have a few things to say on that. And definitely, I agree wholeheartedly with the fact that the adults in our lives definitely do shape our mindset on these situations so greatly. I know growing up, if I heard a comment about myself through an uncle or an auntie, that weighed on me more than anything else would. My parents' opinion came up top. If my parents if I got my parents' approval, that was a big thing for me. That in growing up, that they're the ones who raise you, they're the ones who have so much influence over your life that I'm not sure a lot of parents realize exactly how much their opinion means to us growing up. And I know, especially now growing up in America, I am struggling to find that balance between how I identify as Odia, as Indian, and how I identify as American. And that part, the part of me that identifies specifically as Indian is the one that emphasizes family over anything else. And that is something that's big. My parents influence a lot of what I do. And if they, like what I think Nagesh Uncle showed an amazing kind of like statements to give, that I love you, you look great today, things like that, just boost our confidence, our self-image so much. And saying that a lot more definitely helps with body positivity, body image. And that's something that I've gotten through my parents, and I'm very thankful for that, just because that taught me exactly how much that means, and that shows me what I value. And then for the uncles and aunties, those jokes, those lighthearted things that like, oh, tu tike besi khana, or ette patla te au tike khai de, tu kichi khaunu, things like that. When we hear that, it's as lighthearted as it is, it does, in the back of our head, it stays there that, oh, like, am I really not doing things the way I'm supposed to? Am I not eating enough? Am I eating too much? Where am I in this scale? And so things like that, even if you see someone else's kid who's just sitting there eating, tell them that something else, tell them you look great today. Tell them something reassuring, because everyone's insecure at all times. I can guarantee you, especially kids, especially teenagers, we are insecure at all times. We never think that we look good. We never think that we are perfect. So getting that reassurance from others is definitely very powerful. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Shibani, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, Ananya, I'm going to jump in as a parent. Having raised two daughters, sometimes I wish I had the wisdom back then that I have now. Sometimes I think I was being so busy being a parent in my hustle bustle busy life, I probably didn't stop to take notice as much as I should have. But I did take notice sometimes. I had a foot in two cultures. Having to educate my husband at times, who's first generation Odia, that what is appropriate and what is not appropriate to say to a teenage girl. Definitely, you can't talk about their weight at all. You can't, sometimes as parents, you see the child is eating all the wrong thing, and you just want to protect them so much, and you want to take it away, but it's finding that delicate balance in talking to them or telling them, don't eat this, or don't do that, or don't wear this, or this outfit really doesn't suit your body image at all. It is made for that t-shirt or dress is made for another body image. But as parents, we struggle with, we know all teenagers, if you say something to them, they're going to rebel and do just the opposite. But I'm glad we're having these open dialogues, because it is a teaching moment. And I think it stops and makes us pause, because I have heard things in our community in joke said to kids, or women say to women. I'm going to kind of focus on the middle-aged group. Women say things to women that are just really tearing them down as far as their body image goes. And it's like, how do we educate these people? Forget educating these parents, because you think, if they're doing it to someone in their social circle, are they paying attention to what they're saying to their kids, boys or girls?
And I just really quickly wanted to say, before I forget, you said it as a parent too. I wanted to say, growing up, now that my mom and I have become more like friends than we are mother-daughter, A big thing I've noticed is that vice versa. I see there are some youth, some more kids my age here. I wanted to say it's the same goes vice versa. I know recently my mom has asked me a lot of opinions when it comes to fashion and stuff. She'll ask me, does this dress look good on me? Does this look good on me? The same thing goes with children empowering their parents too. I always notice, like, I know there's a specific shirt that my dad wears that I'm always telling him every time he wears it, you look amazing. Same with my mom. Like I have learned that at the same time, as much as they need to empower me, I also need to do the same with them, because as they're growing older as well, again, everyone's insecure. So having that reassurance from someone who I guess is more up to date with the current trends, having that reassurance from me as well, I know that has helped them a lot. So whoever is in the same boat as me, please keep that in mind as well. And now Nagesh, I'm going.
I wanted to share a personal story and a personal journey for me as well. One of the things I look at myself as a man and a dad. My daughter pulled me into Ayati, as Shibani mentioned in my introduction. It's an organization that works in menstrual health and education and in rural India. And Ariana pulled me into that to say, come volunteer with them. And I'm like, what do I do with this organization, right? And then I probably spent about 3 years there. And I've done so much research. We actually ended up writing a research paper on social attitudes on menstruation. And one of the things that struck me was, where are the men in this discussion? Why are the fathers missing in this discussion? Why is this a mother-daughter conversation? And so on. And it changed my perception. It changed how I looked at it within our family. And I'm like, I'm missing such a big part of my daughter's growing up if I can't have a conversation around menstruation, if she can't feel comfortable to say, Dad, I need pads or whatever, right? And moreover, we had 2 boys growing up in the household. And I'm like, how will these guys learn about what is menstruation and how do they understand? And I realized that in the research, much of the information about knowing what is menstruation for boys comes out of chit-chatting with friends and magazines and so on, but there is no forum for somebody having a conversation with them and saying, this is what it is, and this is how we look at this, and so on. So there is so much that goes into that social stigma, social perception, and how we do it. So I have taken it as a little bit of a mission for myself to say, unless dads get involved, it's not going to work out. It's not going to, we are missing out a part of the daughters growing up, and we are not contributing to their concept of self-confidence and self-esteem and self-image. So that's something that was a personal story from mine.
Thank you so much for responding to that. And yes, that is a very important component in the family situations. I would like to ask Lina Dehal Pepiapa from Canada to unmute. Did someone ask her to unmute?
I just asked her to unmute.
I did.
Okay, I was unmuted, then I muted myself because of the dog, but okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating in this panel, and Shibani for moderating. It has been absolutely amazing. Really glad I joined this afternoon. So I wanted to talk about that whole thing about how we compliment our children or how we make comments to our children. So years and years ago, like 25 years ago, I had a mentor teacher, and she asked me once, she said, when your dad talks to you, does he compliment you on what you're wearing or what you look like or what you've done or said or accomplished? And I said, he compliments me on my intelligence or, whatever I've done in school. And she goes, well, you can tell, it shows. And so I think, hopefully I've tried well enough with my own children who are 20 and 17, but we need to move away from always thinking about the physical compliments we're giving people and think about complimenting their perseverance or their effort or their accomplishments or overcoming challenges. And I think a compliment is a compliment, but something like that will stick with you and positively, as opposed to what you were wearing on a particular occasion, or if you've gained weight or lost weight, which also will stick with you, but not in a good way. Anyway, thank you to the entire panel and the group for putting this together.
Thank you so much. Pepiapa. Okay, we have a question from Sasrika. Sasrika, can you unmute yourself to ask the question?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you. So I'm a teenager, and I was just curious. I wasn't here for the whole panel, but one thing I've always noticed is that, you know, these lines of privilege like always intersect. So like they intersect along race, gender, you know, thinness, I guess. So I think like we have to always realize that, like, I don't know, like when we're discussing one topic, we can't leave the rest out. So like even in when finding a job, gaining access to all these opportunities, weight is also one of these obstacles that can be a barrier to like some kind of privilege. And yeah, that was just one part of what I just wanted to give as context for what I'm about to say. But I've also noticed that, like, especially for Desi boys and girls in America, especially, like being disconnected from like our culture and our like, it's hard sometimes to see yourself when like the status quo is someone who is white or someone who looks a certain body type and has certain ethnic features that are not your own. So I think for young girls, it's hard to deal with, like, sometimes, you know, the masculinization of young brown girls. It can be hard to feel feminine, but as I'm growing older, it's been easier when I connect to my own culture and, you know, like all like the Desi traditions that I used to like be kind of like tired of, like putting flowers in our hair, wearing jumkas, you know, putting our face masks, our oils and stuff. It's helped me and my friends feel like more feminine and more, I don't know. But my question is, like, how can we inculcate this like acceptance into young girls and boys? I think there's a stereotype for young Desi boys, you know, we're represented as being, you know, scrawny, nerdy, in the media. So I was just curious as to how, like, what are some strategies that I can use in the future and like you maybe have used to like combat this attitude?
So any panelists in particular want to respond to that question?
That was actually my daughter. And she's really asked a tough question there. I would have never expected her to do that. So I'm trying to understand that she wants to know how to kind of balance the attitude of, you know, body image and involving everything that she has been going through. I would allow maybe Ananya or Nagesh to maybe take the chance to answer her question.
Yeah, so that was a very loaded question. There definitely are a lot of aspects that go into it. I completely agree with what you said about our ideal, whatever we see in media, whatever we see being portrayed, it's always, it's not the same race as us, ever. Desis, Indian Americans are very underrepresented when it comes to media. And that's something that South Asian representation is growing as we go through. It's currently growing in media and it has a long way to go, but we're getting there. But what you said about like finding that balance between your Desi side and your American side it really resonated with me, just because I was struggling with that as well. And I know a lot of my friends in this forum as well have struggled with that, where you struggle to find that balance, because no one wants to be wearing like pelo in their hair, going to school. No one wants to be doing that. It's awkward because we're the only race that really does that. And we're all learning as we go. But one thing that I really started when I started feeling comfortable with that was when I learned the reasons why we do these things like pelo in your hair. It's because we have different hair types. We need these specific nutrients that come from it, specific things like that that helped me feel more comfortable partaking in these health, skincare routines, health care, all of that. Another thing was just being able to, again, connect with my culture. A lot of my friends, I know one of my close friends who will be my roommate next year, she's very much into that. Her mom is very much into skincare, anything, hair care, all of that. And she's also the same. So now I'm here in college. I get my hair done by her whenever I'm up on campus, when I'm not home for mom to do it. I get my hair done by her just because now I found someone who relates to me in that sense, where she understands the importance of coconut oil, of putting haldi masks, all of that. She understands those, the impact it has on us, and just being able to connect with people. And I know that's difficult, but now we have social media. We have this forum. OSA is an amazing way to be able to connect with other Indian Americans who are going through the exact same things as the rest of us. If you partake in OSA youth events, you get to make lifelong friends who are going through the exact same thing as you. And it's so empowering knowing that I'm not in this alone. I have these specific needs because I am Indian, and other people have the same. And being able to go through that together is very helpful. So I suggest definitely finding your people. And OSA is a great way to do that.
Thank you, Ananya. So what I think we'll do is we will officially close the seminar, but after we're done with closing, if anyone has any questions or comments or discussions that they want to have, we'll leave the line open. It won't be moderated, but we can continue. Those of us that want can continue this discussion. So just in closing, the OSA Women's Empowerment Forum would like to express deep appreciation and gratitude to our wonderful panelists today for sharing their thoughts, experiences, research, and insights with us. Thank you so much, Ananya, Nagesh, Tapti. I don't think I can adequately put it in words, but clearly the reception from the audience over chat and in the Q&A session is an indication of how moved and inspired we all feel. And we really can take something from today with us and keep it as we go through our everyday life. The Women's Empowerment Forum would also like to thank Mosumi Patnaik for the design of all of the marketing materials, and a sincere thanks to Smriti Panda. She's the one that really initiated this discussion and took it and went with it and executed upon it. Without her leadership, today's presentation could not have happened. So thank you so much, Smriti Appa. And before we close, the last final thing, I would like to share with all of you all some information about the upcoming Women's Empowerment Seminar, which is actually going to be a workshop, and it's taking place during the OSA convention coming up in July in Sacramento, California. Let me share little details about this workshop because I think you may find it interesting. Modern Odia Family, Evolving Through Generations. This is an inclusive, interactive workshop led by an intergenerational panel hosted by OSA Women's Empowerment Group. Today's Odia's families are diverse in a multitude of dimensions. It often is said, it takes a village. So we wanted to bring all of the villages together to create a safe, inclusive, interactive environment to discuss and share what it is like to be a part of the Odia family in modern North America. Who is the village, you may ask? Our definitions of the village are varied and diverse. It may include mothers, fathers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors, and community members. While our villages and our families may look different, we have the shared commonality of being Odia. How can we share our experiences to support others who may be in similar or different family models? We want to hear from each of you who have a role in the village and in nurturing a modern ODF family in North America. OSA Women's Empowerment Forum wanted to provide this unique opportunity to learn from one another in a dynamic and interactive workshop. If this sounds interesting to you, exciting to you, if you are considering attending convention, please do. We would love to have this conversation with this entire group. And we're working hard on preparing other activities in the social, cultural, and seminar space that are really intergenerational. So it's relevant for all generations. It's inclusive of all generations. It integrates all generations. And a lot of fun, exciting things are planned for this upcoming OSA convention. So again, please register if you have not, and please consider attending if you're still on the fence. So with that, I would like to formally close out the seminar, and we can unmute the lines for more discussion and conversations to take place. Thank you all so much for joining today. I don't know, we might need to unmute, or I think people cannot. Pramod, are you there, or Prachi? Could you?
Yeah, I took care of it. Yeah, everyone should be able to unmute themselves now.
I will definitely say I learned a lot this afternoon. Going in, I thought I knew some stuff, but definitely the amazing research from Tapti and Nagesh is just very, very powerful. Nagesh, I'm looking forward to watching the movies that you mentioned. And Ananya, you're just amazing. I wonder if I can adopt you. I wonder if my daughters would like a third sister. And I'm really looking forward to meeting so many of you in person one day. And of course, Shibani, you are just amazing as a moderator. So thank you. And of course, I really thank OSA for giving the Women's Empowerment Group an opportunity to voice really, it provides us an opportunity and gives us a voice for so many platforms. And this is just one. And I know there are so many other topics that are so crucial and so relevant to women and families. And I hope in the future we continue to explore some of those controversial and non-controversial topics. So, please feel free to unmute yourselves and participate in the discussions. If not, I understand everyone has a lot to do in these busy afternoons.
Hi, I'd like to talk to Nagesh about something. You can unmute yourself, Nagesh. I was wondering, what can we do to get the dads involved? I've been a pediatrician for over 40 years, but I've never had a chance to discuss menstrual issues with a dad. So what can we do? I don't know, through the social media or however, to get these dads involved.
So, Rajesh, thank you for saying that. You can imagine I went through the same question and struggle myself, right?
Absolutely. You mentioned that, yeah.
Right. So, and here is my submission to all of you, right? I believe that the role of the dad, quote unquote, is a very unique role, and I believe that the dads have the key to ending gender discrimination. And I have reasons for making this very strong statement, because what I realized was the traditional areas where we see gender discrimination is, again, we say men are the reason why this is happening, whether it is work policies, right? How does gender discrimination happen in work? Women get paid less, women have less access to career opportunities, and because of menstruation, because of childbirth, women are the ones who need to take time off. And these are all the reasons why discrimination it becomes part of the organization's policies, right? And I believe that when I look at all the roles that men carry, the role of the dad is the most powerful one in saying, I'm not going to go change my company's policy because of how it is structured, but boy, I want to make a level playing field for my daughter, right? And I think that's a very powerful emotion that all dads carry. And that's what my submission, that dads getting more aware of all of these has a very positive impact in terms of our ability to create a more equal level field for both men and women. So to that extent, what I would suggest, Rajeshri, if there is a possibility in the future, I developed a research proposal and a research survey instrument, we could always do a survey within our OSA community, talking to dads about saying, how comfortable are you having this discussion in your household? Have you done it? Do you have children who are approaching menarche or who have gone through it, and so on? Powerful. It is something that will open the conversation up, and all of the people here, if we encourage the men in the family to participate, it will be a wonderful thing to do.
I wanted to piggyback.
That'd be great if you can do that. If I can help in any way, I'll be more than happy to help you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I just wanted to
and the next question, sorry, one more question for Ananya. Ananya, what can you do through the social media to address the issue of body positivity? All you see is a beautiful woman there, right? What can we do so that our kids don't get to see all those beautiful women with a perfect figure in the medias? That's a hard one, I know.
Good question. So I would like to mention that it is changing right now. It's currently changing. There are a lot of influencers who are bringing up this discussion, bringing up the topic. One of them being Rihanna.
Okay.
She is a pop star who has gone into the business world through makeup. She also does. She has a lot of businesses going on right now, but one of the biggest things that she has done that was revolutionary was creating a makeup line for people of all skin types, skin colors. Fenty Beauty, which is her line, has foundations for basically every skin tone from across all races, which is a very, very revolutionary thing when it comes to makeup, because a lot of makeup, even for me growing up, I would wear makeup that was like, it made me look like a ghost just because we didn't have the options to fit our skin types and our skin tones. So having that, the conversation has already gone towards there. It's just keeping it there that is very powerful. So having discussions like this, having young children become aware of it from a younger age so that these conversations stay relevant is a big thing, in my opinion. It's just continuing these conversations and pushing for change. Another big personality, celebrity that I can think of when it comes to changing, like bringing up this discussion, is Lizzo. She's also someone who is she's not skinny. She is she's a bigger woman, and she shows it with pride, and she has been very open about the fact that this is my body, this is who I am. If you like it, you can stay. If you like who I am, you can stay. If not, here's the door. And she's been very open about that, and I think that has also empowered a lot of young women to feel comfortable with themselves, because if someone can feel comfortable with themselves and have that much success, then there's no reason why the rest of us can't do the same. So having that representation is a big thing, and going towards skin type, our race. South Asian representation is also growing in media, especially through Netflix. Netflix is working a lot with South Asian producers, actors, any personalities. They're working very hand in hand with South Asian actresses and actors to grow that representation, and it's showing, and it will be showing in the next year or so, including a documentary on college Indian Americans through their the college dance teams that I'm on one of them. There's actually a documentary being filmed about all of this and about this lifestyle, and having that representation of real, I might, who knows, but I may be on there, having that representation of very real college students who are going through life, and they're now on social media, they're now on TV. That in itself is growth. So keeping an eye out for those things, really bringing attention to those aspects of social media, of TV, would be very beneficial to body positivity and growth in that mindset.
Thank you.
And I did want to piggyback on your past question to Nagesh Uncle about how men in general can be more involved in these conversations. I think a big part of growing up, I did not know anything about the male changes, anything, because when we have the talk, like puberty talk in school, girls and boys get separated, go into different rooms, learn about their respective.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
And then we come back and we're all sitting in one awkward room going, oh my God, I just learned so much about my life. I don't know what's happening. But then we look at the guys like, what did you learn? Like, what happened in your room? And we have no idea. And like what Nagesh Uncle said, everything we hear is through gossip amongst ourselves. So we never had any proper education about the other gender's changes. And I think that's a big thing about why it's such a taboo topic to talk about menstruation, because a man has never properly learned about what it entails, when it happens, how it happens. I remember I was talking to one of my friends in late middle school, and he had a little sister, and he was very scared about when she would start her period. He had asked us, and we were like, yeah, it's a very difficult week. And he goes, a whole week? I thought it was once a day for like 5 minutes and then every day for the rest of your life. And I was shocked by how uninformed.
Yeah, it just tells you how little they know. Yeah.
Nothing. And it's sad how much. I think we were like 13, 14 around the time. That's an age where you should start understanding what other people around you are going through. And it was sad to see that he has a little sister and he had no idea what she was about to experience. So having those conversations, whether it happens in the education system or not, having them at least at home, where just starting the conversation by telling them that, hey, become aware that everyone in your classes, everyone in school, in your groups, they're all going through changes. Guys and girls go through different changes, and be aware of that. Treat people. I have this saying on my wall that I wake up to every day where it says, treat people with kindness. I think that's one of the biggest things that you can teach growing up. And that's one of the biggest contributors to body positivity, body image. If everyone gives a compliment out a day, if everyone is nice to one another, and that those like snarky comments or the passive aggressive statements, if that goes down to a minimum, that can change so much about body positivity, about everyone's outlook on life in general. But yeah, thank you so much for asking.
You've been wonderful. Great. Nice to have you. Folks, I have to leave. I have some other commitment. Thank you so much.
ठीक है, Mamta Nani wanted to, actually Mamta Nani is one of our previous speaker.
Oh, I loved her talk.
Yeah, she's passionate about something she would like to share.
Okay.
Few minutes. Yeah,
I'll wait then.
Thank you, Sujata. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't really want to interrupt this wonderful discussion, but just to my comment about the discussion is that I was looking at all of this and I was thinking how lucky I am growing up in the 50s in India. I had no concept about body image. My parents treated all of us, 3 girls and a boy, as human beings, to be kind and good human beings. I remember that one time I was probably already quite old, in high school or something, and somebody mentioned something about, oh, Mamata, your mother is so pretty. And I thought that was the weirdest thing I ever heard. What do they mean your mother is pretty? We all have normal faces. We are neither pretty nor ugly. We are just have plain normal human faces. And so you know how this is such a huge problem. Then I now in here and in India also now. And then I came to US. I immigrated in the 70s. I was the only Indian, my kids grew up as only Indians. So we were always different. So whenever the children asked anything, I said, hey, we are immigrants. We have our own culture and we are here. We have to learn the best of both worlds. And then, I never raised boys and you teach me. So I let them teach me how to be their mother. And it sort of worked out. But basically, I taught them to be kind human beings. Now I am a mindfulness teacher, and my classes have both men and women. And I tell them when we do body scan practice, I say, hey, don't worry about what you look in the mirror. Think about how you feel. So we talk about the functional body, the health, and how to bring your kindness into your own body. So that works out. So that's all I'm going to say about this topic. But what I had requested, Sujata, is that since this is the General Women's Empowerment Forum, if I could say something about some of the one opportunity that's now available, especially in this forum. I see a lot of medical doctors, so I think this might interest them. I'm a volunteer, Sujata is too, of an organization called SEEDS, which stands for, you might have heard the name. They do work in educational economic development in rural Odisha. Empowering women is, they have a lot of women's empowerment projects. But right now, you probably all know that, not right now, but always, and it's probably going to remain always, there is a global shortage of nurses everywhere. And to empower a woman, the best thing you can do is to provide them training in nursing. Make a woman a nurse, that woman would never have problem finding a job anywhere in the world. So right now, one of our projects is to give scholarships or actually living assistance to 100 nursing students from rural Odisha. They are getting scholarships. Right now, Bhubaneswar has 6 nursing colleges. And this usually in Odisha, nursing training is taken by very low to lower middle income family girls. High income families do not go for nursing. So these are people who are from rural Odisha who come to Bhubaneswar. They get some scholarship from the government that pays for their tuition, but the expensive living cost is quite high to live in Bhubaneswar. So we are trying to supplement, to have them decent meals. We don't want them to starve while they are going through nursing school. That's what women would do, feed themselves. They will cut from their meals to save money to go, and then they would get sick and eventually they might drop out. So to sustain their education, we are trying to educate, give living supplement $500 a year to cover their food cost to one nurse. We are giving 100 scholarships on behalf of SEEDS. We right now have a donor who is giving a match of $15,000. The cost of one scholarship is $500 per year. So I would request for you to pass the word to people who would like to contribute. They can donate on our website. It's called seedsnet.org. I can send that in chat, and or send me an email. And then your donation, the first up to 15,000 would get matched. So that's all I have to say on this. If there are any questions, if you can send me an email.
Thank you, Amtanani. I think ଆମକୁ ବି ଏଟା close କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ. meeting that. Anything else from the panelist? Or
I think it's putting a space there. It's just seedsnet.org.
पठेई दीजिए प्राची पठेई दीजिए वंदनानी.
Oh, okay.
हाँ प्राची पोस्ट कर
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Great job, Smriti.
Bye-bye.
Shibani.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Tapti, Nagesh.
Thank you all for attending. Seminars as good as the attendees. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.